Yesterday in Brussels, the U.S. Secretary of War stood in a room full of NATO defense ministers and called the alliance a paper tiger to their faces. And then he started a clock because what Pete Hegseth announced today isn't a speech you forget by Friday. It's a 6-month review that could decide how many American troops stay in Europe and which allies get left holding the bag. I'm going to walk you through exactly what he said, what's actually confirmed versus what's being spun, and what this means going into next month's summit in Ankara. Let's get into it.
The United States has defended Europe for generations. And for too long, NATO has been a paper tiger and a one-way street. It's not going to cut it anymore. And so we're doubling down on our effort to make NATO what it always was supposed to be, a balanced alliance with Europe in the lead for its own defense, NATO 3.0. I'm announcing today a 6-month Department of War review that will examine America's force posture and basing in Europe. It will be designed to ensure that NATO is moving fast and irreversibly toward Europe leading. Going forward, our annual NATO dues will be contingent on other countries meeting their defense spending targets. Where other allies do not spend with urgency, our dues contributions will go down. This is the right thing to do by the American people, and it's time.
On Thursday, June 18th, Hegseth opened a meeting of NATO defense ministers in Brussels with that speech. This was deliberate. This was blunt. He said NATO had for too long been a paper tiger and a one-way street. And he announced a Department of War review of America's force posture and basing in Europe. Up to 6 months, possibly less. He framed it as NATO 3.0, and that's not just a slogan he coined on the podium. This is a doctrine that was introduced back in February by the president, and it was built on the idea that Europe takes primary responsibility for its own conventional defense. This review will involve consultations with Congress and with allies, and Hegseth tied the future U.S. contributions directly to whether members hit their spending commitments. The alliance's new 5% of GDP, gross domestic product, that's the target, and he stopped short of questioning the Article 5 mutual defense guarantee, but he made it clear dues and force levels are now on the table.
At the same time, going forward, our annual NATO dues will be contingent on other countries meeting their defense spending targets. Where other allies do not spend with urgency, our dues contributions will go down. NATO will be a two-way street.
So for too long, the United States has been the #1 contributor to NATO. And during this recent Iran conflict, some allies denied U.S. aircraft and ships access to European bases and overflight. Pete Hegseth called that shameful and said it put, in his words, American sons and daughters at risk.
At the same time, going forward, our annual NATO dues will be contingent on other countries meeting their defense spending targets. Where other allies do not spend with urgency, our dues contributions will go down. NATO will be a two-way street. It's only common sense.
So for too long, the United States has been the world's police force. And when they're not paying for our presence, our services, they take it for granted. And we saw that during this Iran conflict. It's still happening right now. These countries have taken us for granted. The President of the United States, whether you agree with him or not, is trying to hold these other countries, Europe, accountable. They need to be responsible for their own well-being, their own safety, their own security. NATO is becoming very outdated, and Europe is a perfect example of how America should not be responsible for their problems.
America cannot care for or pay more for Europe's defense than our allies do. And this review will think outside the box. Our national defense strategy states clearly that we're going to incentivize and enable our allies to step up and do their part. So we're going to keep a close eye on allies who are not doing that and who say no or maybe or wait and see when it matters most. It's a review that some countries will fail and others will pass with flying colors. In the end, the review is intended to both improve U.S. force posture and basing and strengthen NATO 3.0.
We do not need 40, 50, 60,000 troops in Germany right now. And this Germany troop withdrawal, this could very well affect them. Number one, their defense posture. Number two, their economy, because I want you to think about how much money is being shipped to Germany for this status of forces agreements for us to have a base there. Think about England. We've got like 4 different bases in the UK that are receiving funding from the United States. Not only that, but those men and women that are stationed there, their salaries are going into their local economies and not back here in the United States.
It's intended to be constructive, as we have always been. There are no strategic surprises here. There haven't been. I've been clear with all of you since my first remarks to this body in February of 2025. President Trump has always done the same. Our direction of travel is and has been clear. This is the right thing to do by the American people. It's the right.
That's the big phrase for me. The right thing to do by the American people, because you can tailor this however you want, but it's American tax dollars going to other countries to prop up their defense on our dime. Whether you agree with this or not, there's a couple of different sides to this argument. Do we need to stay in NATO? Do we need to continue to be the number one funder for the rest of the world? I'm going to say no, and I would love to get any opinions that you have justifying why you believe that. The second part of this, with the Iran conflict, with everything that's happened and all these countries that decided not to help us, we're the largest payer, the largest paid member of NATO, and they decided not to help us. So this in itself shows who's with us, and if you're not with us, you're against us.
For all of our clarity, too many allied capitals seem to still miss something in translation. Too many allies still don't recognize the historic need that President Trump has made clear to them and to NATO